All right. Just quick score update on that game. Still 17-0. Okay.
No, 17-2, bro.
And they got a safety. Nice. Hello and welcome back to the Second and Two podcast. I'm your host, TB, with my co-host, producer extraordinaire, unfortunately sad Broncos fan, Russell Wilson honorary sous chef, maybe he's helping Russell Wilson in the kitchen. Master of the grills. I mean, so definitely Russ could use some help in that arena. And everything else, you guys know him. Jody, what's up, Joe?
What up, man? I was, as you were describing what our guy Russ Wilson is cooking, I was figuring, what if they all just went to our guy Gordon Ramsay and learned how to cook? Took a trip down to Vegas, hit Hell's
Gordon
Kitchen.
Ramsay becomes the QB coach that everyone's looking. He's the new Tom House of QBs.
Yeah. They gotta go get right in Vegas and make sure they could whip up some food.
That'd be like a fun reality show. Which quarterback can actually cook the best? Because they all have their own personal chefs.
Yeah, no,
so
exactly.
Who can actually whip something up?
Like a special edition of Chopped or something where they got.
I don't know why, but it just feels like maybe Tua would be really good. I think
he's got that flavor. He's got all the flavor.
I think that would.
I don't know. I think Lamar, dude. I think Lamar could take it too.
Which I don't know, dude. You think so?
Yeah, but you know who's not gonna take it?
Who's that?
Patty Mahomes.
Mahomes does not cook.
He could cook on the field. I don't know if he could cook in the kitchen.
He ain't cooking in that kitchen. No way. Man. Speaking of cooking, Mahomes is cooking right now. The Chiefs are up 17-2 as we record right now on Sunday Night Football over the Jets, the abysmal Jets right now. So we've got a lot to talk to. This is a jam-packed pod today.
Juicer.
Yeah, we want to start it out. Quick update on your boy. We had a bye week this week.
Yeah,
we won the bye week.
Yeah, it was some good reps out there.
Good stuff. We play our first district game next week. It's a big game, big game. So opening district play, and these are the games that count in terms of getting to the playoffs. So
true.
Wish us luck next Friday.
What's the other team look like? Are they what's their record and whatnot?
They are 2-3. We're 3-2. They are very similar to us. A lot of athletes. Really like their quarterback. Quarterback's a really good player. I think we can get after him though. And it should be a very good game. I mean, it's the kind of game where if you win it, you feel really good about your chances of making the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Even though it's only one game, it feels like, okay, if you get this win, you feel pretty good about some of the things we have coming up. If you lose, your path's a lot harder. So
makes sense.
It's a big game, even though it's the first one.
And I'm sure that bye week definitely helped out. Get the boys some rest, get right before getting into the games that matter.
Yeah. All right, so let's kick it around the league real quick. Let's go bar for bar here. First and foremost, Kenny Pickett got hurt today. The Steelers are hoping it's just an MCL sprain. He left in the third quarter, never came back. Obviously, that offense functions better when he's under center, and you would hope that he would come back. Doesn't help that the Steelers plane got delayed again, second week in a row.
Oh, after the game? Home.
Yeah, Dang. They just got cleared to leave, though, about 20 minutes ago. So now they are actually flying back from Houston to Pittsburgh. So prayers up for the Steelers getting home safe, and then Kenny Pickett being evaluated for a knee injury. Let's hope it is just a little MCL sprain and he'll be okay.
Yeah, another dude that got hurt is Justin Herbert in that Raiders game today. He I don't know if he hit someone's helmet or what, but his non-throwing hand, he messed up his middle finger. They had that tape on there, and then they switched it to a glove, probably taped up with it too. Pretty weird, but Very unfortunate. Luckily, it's the non-throwing hand because they need that man out there to throw that rock.
Yeah, and he gutted it out. I mean, he threw a game-winning laser when they were up 7 on 3rd and 10.
Yeah.
and he hucked it deep too. He wasn't like just trying to get 10 yards. They went vertical and he put it on the money. Another guy who gutted it out today, Matthew Stafford. Looks like he injured his hip flexor, but he gutted it out in an overtime win. Said he expects to play next week after the game. Reporter asked him, what do you think in terms of, are you going to be available? He said he scoffed at it and said, I'm playing. It's kind of like, who I am. I'm Matthew Stafford. I
He's
played
like,
through
did you
every
not see
injury.
me on the Lions for the
Yeah.
longest?
So
He's like, I get my guy back next week. I'm definitely going to be there.
Yeah. So I think he'll be all right and be playing, but he may something to keep an eye on. May have a little issue with the hip flexor there.
Yeah. Another dude who didn't play today, or I guess he just didn't play, not got injured in the game, was Deshaun Watson. He didn't play because of a shoulder injury, which let our guy DTR get some reps in over for
Got
the
his
Browns.
first start.
Yeah.
Didn't look great for most of it. He wasn't awful, but DTR, rough day. I mean, it's tough to get your first start against the Ravens.
Yeah, a team with a great defense, even just as good offense. And I feel like that one might have been on the road, if I'm not mistaken.
Cleveland was at home.
Oh, okay.
So that did help, or could have helped, but it didn't go great for him. Another guy who did not finish a game today, T. Higgins, looks like he has fractured ribs. He's probably going to miss a couple weeks. Those are no joke, especially if you play receiver or quarterback where you're having to stretch or throw, like any position where you're doing that, receiver, quarterback, DB, where those ribs are going to be exposed a lot. And you have to move so much, likely means he's going to miss a few weeks until those things heal up well enough for him to manage that pain. Tough day for the Bengals all around.
The gameplay, the execution, it was all bad over there. Let's see. Another team, some good news, bad news for this team. The Bears, they're 0-4. They lost that game at the end, let the Broncos get back in there. But the good news, they got the first 2 picks next year in the draft if it were today. So, I mean, they got the pick from the Panthers, and then they have their own pick there as well. So
I saw a quick note on this. I saw PFF mock draft today, and it was Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison to the Bears, and I was like, dude, if that happened, instantly they'd have to be good, right? I mean, there's no way they wouldn't be good if that's what happens. The Broncos though, they get a dub today. How you feeling?
Yeah.
Our resident Broncos fan. They finally got off the schneid.
I mean, I'm glad they pulled it off. I was texting you about it when I just got off of work, checked the score, and said, 21-7 to the Bears, or maybe it was even 28-7. I don't know. And I was like, bro, I thought this was a sure win for the Broncos, that they were just gonna get right real quick, expose them. And then I was like, now it's flipped. I was like, I don't even know what to expect. Maybe Hackett wasn't the issue at one point in time today. And then so I texted Johnny and Mitch. I was like, bro, what's wrong with the Broncos? At the same time, I'm talking to you. And then the scripts flipped. The Broncos started scoring, and then the Rams decided to let the Colts back in. And I was like, bro, what is going on right now? But they both ended up winning. So, I mean, it all worked out in the end.
Wild. And we're going to get to some of that stuff. Just to finish up on that Bears-Broncos game, the Bears told Chase Claypool to stay home today.
I seen that too.
He was not active. They told him to stay home. Their head coach initially said that Claypool had the option. Then someone clarified that he was told to stay home. All of it is weird. And now they're looking to trade him. Apparently, he's on the trade block officially. The Bears organization feels like the most dysfunctional organization in the league right now. Yeah. And it doesn't even seem close with all of the things that they've had going on recently. DC's resigning.
Last
the
week,
FBI apparently
raided his home or something.
Yeah, all of that. Stuff. I mean, their head coach saying guys have an option to play, and now they don't. They're telling guys to stay home. Justin Fields looks like He looks miserable out there. Their offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy's getting crushed in the media. The whole thing, they finally look like they may have something going, and then they blow it, and now they're 0-4. The only thing, like you said, that they have good going for them is that they may end up with 2 top 5 picks the way this season for them and the Panthers is going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Claypool, will they even be able to trade him?
I don't know. I mean,
Don't think
would
so.
they
This
do
is the
like a
second
third or a
team, and
fourth for something for him when
it's
they
the
got him
second.
from?
Yeah, they think they traded a third for him, but this
Yeah.
is the second team in 2 years that's like completely given up on him, want to trade him. They say they're seeking a fifth or a sixth. I doubt
Nah,
a
ain't no
team
way.
even gives them that. It seems like
They just gotta let him walk, I
whatever
think, if that's the case.
his attitude and effort issue is, it's not been solved between the Steelers
Yeah.
and the Bears.
Oh, that's for sure. Let's see some more injury updates. We got Matthew Judon. He tore his bicep in that Cowboys game, and it was sad to see, bro. Like next, he was reaching for the tackle and just like fell on his arm and was
Yeah.
grabbing at it, tore his bicep. From what we see, so that's tough as well. Big piece on that defense for them.
Yeah, not sure how much time he'll miss, but significant. A guy who we unfortunately do know will miss the rest of the season is
Hmm.
Tre'Davious White. Honestly, heartbreaking for that guy. He's battled injuries. He had such a good and promising start to his career. He was one of the best corners in the league, and
Yeah.
now he just can't stay healthy. It looks like he was carted off with a non-contact Achilles injury. So, I mean, we're not good. I mean, his season's over. So really sad. They showed a picture of him crying on the sideline, and that just is always, it's the worst part of football. It's not even
Hmm.
close. The worst part. So prayers up for Tre'Davious White. Hope he gets better and recovers quickly.
Yeah, and this was in Buffalo, yeah.
Yeah.
Just another tally mark for the turf, just taking people.
Yeah. I need to lighten the mood. We had a couple great games today that went to
Oh, for
OT.
sure.
The Eagles
Some big
comeback
ones.
win against the Commanders, huge win in overtime, and then the Rams were winning 23-0 in the middle of the third quarter. Let the Colts come all the way back and tie it before eventually winning the game 29-23 on a walk-off Puka Nacua touchdown in OT. We'll talk about both those games later, but
Hmm.
massive games, both big wins for both teams. And mind you, the Eagles and the Rams, both winners in OT today, play each other next week in SoFi.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Johnny, I know you're gonna be listening. Let me get the tickets.
Johnny, get
I
my
already
guy the
got the time
ticks.
off.
Come on,
Let
give
me
him the
go.
ticks, bro. He's got the time off.
But speaking of the Eagles, man, today I finally got my duo to ball out in our fantasy league that we got between me and you. I got
Oh,
Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown on the squad, and it's about
they
time
went
AJ
crazy.
Brown looks like we want him to, you know?
Yeah, they went crazy today. AJ Brown was unreal.
Yeah, I will say, unfortunately for you, luckily you got all the rest of your dudes playing besides Saquon. I think he's back tomorrow. But you got Patty Mahomes still to play, Travis Kelce and Harrison Bucker. But at the moment, it sits. You got 69. I got 187. I had that two highest scores on my team with Christian McCaffrey and AJ Brown. So we could see what the boys pull out for you tonight in this game, and then Saquon tomorrow if he's there.
Well, it's currently 17-5 in that game. The Jets have the ball, so Jets are weathering this early onslaught a little bit and getting themselves back in it. 8.5 to go in the second quarter, trying to make that thing a game. Unfortunately, I had to play against AJ Brown in my
Oh, in your
college
actual
fantasy
league?
football league.
Uh huh.
Yeah, the guy had AJ Brown and Puka Nakua. So,
Oh yeah, I had Puka on mine.
and I
All
had
31.
I have T
Oh
Higgins
yeah, he had like 5 or
and
something, right?
Jordan Addison, who was awful today. So, all around bad day for your boy in
I,
fantasy football, which is partly why I stopped playing. But I guess I
yeah.
got suckered back in this year.
Okay, so quick before we flip the script from the fantasy talk, I got an update on our guy who decided to text me last week saying,
Oh
"Hey,
yeah, give us the update.
so before we log on again today, I'm finishing up watching my Munoz Award winner and get a text, boop." And so mind you, Johnny and Mitch are texting at the same time. We're talking about possibilities with the Broncos going on over there, and then Red River rivalry,
Ooh.
and boom! I look. It says X whatever they titled it, ex football player, water boy something. And so I pick it up. Mind you, like I said, no number saved, but I see 858, which is the dude's area code, and I go. He said, "Hey, so should I just keep the money this year and y'all can figure it out next year, or you guys think you have a chance?" And I was like, "Bro, this dude really thinks his team is that nice? Like, this is crazy, bro. It's literally just fantasy. Like, you could relax. I know you're the commissioner. I know you have everyone's bread, but you're talking crazy right now in week 4. Like, I get it. You think your team is really good, but if he doesn't realize, like, he has 143 today. I just looked at my
Mhm.
team. I got 165. Like, thanks, bro, but you're not the highest scoring team this week. You got lucky last week that your dude decided to drop 70 on the Broncos again, like I mentioned already.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna be that like consistent every week. So I hope this dude really doesn't win. I hope he gets there and loses to whoever he plays, whoever it may be. I just hope because this would break his heart. I could tell.
Yeah.
And so that dude over there, I hope you get your wish at winning the year, but I hope you don't. There's 9 other possibilities waiting to take that dub over you. So I hope that those 9 can
Sounds
figure it
like
out
you have a
because this guy
fantasy
is something else.
football rival. That's what it sounds
Not
like.
even a rival. I just think this dude's cocky. It's crazy. Like let me put this in perspective. I got our first 4 weeks between me and you. Look, 129, 118. Those are the scores. 117, 126. Very consistent. 140, 129. Still very consistent. And then today, like I said, 2 high scores on my team. 187 to 69. You still have 4 dudes playing. But like it's not gonna it's the variation in scores are there. It's just this dude is crazy. He
Yeah, it
thinks
sounds
he's the
like it.
hottest thing since sliced bread.
Well, that's what happens when you're up, you're up. Um,
Crazy.
so switching gears, we did want to check in with college football today. It's been a while. We did our
Yeah,
predictions
that's for
pod.
sure.
We want to check in after 5 weeks and see who we each have in the college football playoff. Quick synopsis of
Mhm.
each team. I'll go first. Number 1, I've still got Georgia. They haven't lost a game since 2021.
Yeah, that's
And they've
crazy.
they've called it close a couple times. South Carolina gave them a
Yeah,
little
last
scare
week was
early in the
was
year.
scary.
And on the road at
Auburn.
Auburn was
Yeah,
tough. They
yeah.
really cut it close. They turned it on offensively in the
And
second half
yeah.
and got a win, but it was close. Michigan at 2. They haven't played anyone within 25 points all year.
Yeah.
They're they're pretty much dominating every game they play. They've played a relatively soft-ish schedule, though I will point out that all of their non-Power 5 opponents this year, which are UNLV, Bowling Green, and who am I forgetting? Someone else that I'm forgetting right now. All 3, though, have beaten a Power 5 opponent. So it's not
Really?
like all of
Mm,
these non-power fives they're playing are the weakest of the weak non-power fives. They're still non-power fives, but
yeah.
they played a weaker schedule. But then again, Rutgers came in 3-0. Michigan smashed them. They went on the road to Nebraska, their first road game. Absolutely torched Nebraska. It wasn't even close the whole way. Next week they
Yeah.
get a little bit tougher test. Minnesota is a good football team. That'll be a tougher test in the Big Ten, but they get to play for the Little Brown Jug next week. Number 3, I've got Texas. This is where I initially had Alabama. I now have Texas here. Wasn't sure preseason if I could believe the Texas hype.
Yeah, you didn't know if they
Uh,
were back.
let our guy Mitch know. I think they're back. They have played great football on both sides of the ball. Their defensive line is one of the deepest defensive lines in college football right now. They literally have 8 guys for 4 spots, and they all bring something different. Quinn Ewers looks like a completely different player. He shaved the mullet. He lost 20
All
pounds.
praise to God, bro.
He's playing efficient. Yeah. And then lastly, I've got USC. Now, of the 4 teams, this is the team I believe in the least. There's actually teams I
Yeah,
think are
no doubt.
better than USC.
That's how I
However,
feel, which I'll get into right now.
however, I just kind of have a feeling that Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams are good enough to get them there.
Yeah,
Kind
that
of
makes
like
sense.
the Lincoln Riley Oklahoma teams, good enough to get there and then get smoked in the first round because their defense isn't quite good enough, but they create
Yeah,
turnovers. That's classic Alex Grinch defense. Not great, but they create turnovers. So UGA, Michigan, Texas, USC after 5 weeks. That's my prediction.
yeah. I will say I have the first three the same. I mean, you could interchange Michigan and Texas. I don't know whose schedule is truly stronger, but you know,
I mean, Texas has Bama on there, so that certainly helps
so
them.
that helps them. Yeah, okay. So yeah, like I said, those three, Georgia unanimous. Texas, Michigan interchangeable. But I have Oregon at my fourth spot instead of USC. And changing them out from the first time we did this. I think, yeah, like you mentioned USC's defense. Like I knew that was going to be like their issue last week, especially in that Colorado game. And you could attest to this. You were there when this was going on. What who'd they play 2 weeks ago? Damn. Who,
Texas,
who no is that who Colorado played 2 weeks ago?
Oregon.
Oregon, yeah. So yeah. They were talking about we were talking about spreads in that game. I was like, nah, they're running away with it. And then last week when they played USC, I was like, okay, it's the opposite. I believe in their offense being able to score on their defense, even though I think USC is probably more of the powerhouse in the Pac-12. But for that reason alone, defense, they're playing more complete ball in Oregon as opposed to USC in my eyes. So that's why I got them in 4.
And that's completely fair. I mean, right now, if you look at the AP poll, just give you the AP poll top 10,
Uh-huh.
Georgia, Michigan, Texas, Ohio State, Florida State, Penn State, Washington, Oregon, USC, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So there are 2 Pac-12 teams ahead of USC in Oregon and Washington is
Uh-huh.
playing
They're
great
looking
football right
nice
now.
too.
They almost were the team that was 4 for me, but I ultimately went with USC. Um, and then Penn State, Florida State, Ohio State, all lurking right there as well. I kind of have a feeling, though, this year the conferences are too good, and especially the Pac-12 is
Oh
too
yeah.
good for you to get 2 teams from one conference. I have a feeling it'll be Michigan or Ohio State. It'll be
Mhm.
UGA. Probably the SEC isn't as good this year. It'll be, you know, probably Texas or Florida State, whether it's the Big 12 or the
Yeah, Florida
ACC,
State's
and
playing
then
nice too.
one of those Pac-12 teams. I mean, because there's just so many good ones right now. So
Yeah.
feels like the Pac-12 in its last year of existence will make the playoff and have its best year probably in a long time, which is
Yeah.
ironic. Since we did a college football playoff check-in, we figured we would do a quick top 3 contenders in each conference check-in in the
Let's
NFL.
do it.
So transitioning back to the league, who you
Yeah.
got, Jody, as your top 3 in each conference?
So for the NFC, I got the Niners. I mean, we've seen it the past 4 weeks already. They're literally unstoppable on offense. Defensively, they're just as good, if not even better, stopping the opposing teams. Crazy. Eagles, I think they're really battle tested. I don't know how long they'll be able to maintain their success, but I think they're the next best team coming out the NFC. And then lastly, it pains me to say it, but I think the Cowboys are for real. I think they'll win the Super Bowl if they get there? Probably not. But I think they are the third best team coming out the NFC. And then for the AFC, I got Baltimore at 1. Really gritty games, not the prettiest scores. It's like 19 to whatever. But offensively and defensively, really good. Bills, they moved up on my board from when we did
Dominating
the
one today.
whole. Yeah, that's for sure. The whole big board of who we thought was gonna finish where in the playoffs. Bills taking a big leap for me, and then the Chiefs. I mean, the same thing how I feel with the Eagles. The Chiefs have done this year in year out. I think they just have to be in this spot. But at the same time, it's like how much can they take with all these long seasons? I don't know. So that's the reason I have them at 3. But I mean, you could interchange those dudes all you want, and they're all viable.
Well, we're really, really similar right now, very close. In the NFC, I also have the 49ers and the Eagles sitting at 1 and 2.
Hmm.
My third team, though, I have the Lions. I think the Cowboys loss to the Cardinals last week
Yeah. Yeah.
put up
No,
some red
I get that.
flags. I know they recovered really nicely against the Patriots today, and I mean beat the dog out of them. It was 38-3. But it just was a good reminder that
They're still
anytime
the
he wants
Cowboys.
to, Dak can kind of blow a game for you.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I'm not saying that game was all on him. The interception he threw at the time and positioning on the field that he threw it really hurt them.
Yeah,
And I just like the way Jared Goff is playing right now, and that Lions football team looks like a complete team. So I've got
yeah,
the
no, for
49ers,
sure.
the Eagles, and the Lions with the Cowboys lurking. In the AFC, I have the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Bills, um, with the Dolphins and the Browns lurking. Both the
Mhm.
Dolphins and Browns lost critical football games in the division to the division rivals, Ravens and Bills. Those were the marquee games of the day, and actually
Yeah,
both turned out to be dominating wins for the Ravens and
yeah, for the
Bills.
opposing. Yeah,
Um, and so, the AFC is going to be interesting no matter what, but I do think I like those three teams. It's the three best quarterbacks in the AFC right now. Tua being right there. I mean, arguably Tua has been the best quarterback in the league this
true.
year, but those four at the very least between Lamar, Patty Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Tua, those four have been the best quarterbacks maybe in the league this year, and
Yeah,
not just AFC. So I like those games. And then the Browns, maybe get a small pass because they didn't have Deshaun today. So
yeah. I mean, that defense is still really good. Granted, not having your starting quarterback to take you out there and score some points for you is tough. But I mean, they did the best they could today. But speaking of the quarterbacks that you just mentioned, where do you rank these dudes? I know you teased it last week. We got the QB tiers, and is it still the same ones that we're used to? Or did you change the names on there a little bit?
we'll go live right now. All right. Can we all see this?
Yeah, yeah, we're here.
All right,
Got
great.
it.
All right, so for those of you who have been following us for a little while, or at least since the off season, you know that I have a very, very strict QB tier system, and it goes like this: you have the A plus plus list tier, which is your Leonardo DiCaprio types, which means that if this quarterback was starring in a movie, that movie is going to hit at the box office because it's Leo. What Leo DiCaprio movie has flopped? They don't. They
I
just
don't
don't.
know.
He's unbelievable. And these guys are also unbelievable, which means if they're the quarterback of your team, you have a shot at winning the Super Bowl every year. The next tier is the elite tier. That's Matt Damon. You're talking about mostly great movies, maybe some good ones, but whatever role he's in, he shines, right? He's
Huh.
always great. He could be a supporting actor, he could be the best actor. But no matter what, his movies do well. That's the elite tier. And then you've got the high variance tier. That's the Adam Sandler tier. You've
Okay.
got your uncut gems, your, um, you know, uh, Big Daddy, your Billy Madisons, just your classics, just unbelievable hits. But then you also have your movies that just aren't
Jack
very
and
good.
Jill.
Jack and Jill, Pixels, whatever. Some of those movies that just Adam Sandler did, they're not his best. They're not great. And these are these high variance quarterbacks that sometimes when they're great, you could talk yourself into this guy being top 5. But when they're not so great, you could be like, man, we really lost the game because of this guy today. He played terrible. All right.
Yeah,
Then you get to your starters with question tier. That's your Nicolas Cage, who has made kind of a comeback recently, which is interesting because there's a guy in that tier who's made kind of a comeback right now.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Looking at him.
and that's just our starters with one big question, right? Nicolas Cage had a long run, great movies, but he was kind of a one-trick pony, and we always had that question of could he do something else besides the movies he
National
did
Treasure.
really well? Yeah. And then you get to the youthful tier. That's the Tom Holland tier where this person's career could go either way. They're a star right now because they're young, but we'll see where their career takes them. And Tom Holland's had taken a couple L's recently. So, these young guys, they take some wins, they take some L's. They're not really, the youthful tier is kind of guys who are almost unranked at this point because you don't have enough to really
No
rank them.
film. Yeah.
But you kind of, you can look at them and say, we can rank these guys within their own tier. And then there's just the B-listers, the Leto tier. These guys are just better as backup quarterbacks, just like Jared Leto is better as a supporting actor, not a star, right?
Yeah.
All right.
No, I get that.
So now that we've explained the tiers, let's go through them one by one. We're going to give you a quick blurb on each guy and why they're ranked where they are. Number 1, A++ list here, DiCaprio, Patrick Mahomes. I don't even need to say much here. He's just undisputed number 1, two-time Super Bowl champion. This is where he was in the offseason. This is where he stays.
Yeah.
Number 2, Josh Allen. He takes one step up. He was ranked 3 in the offseason. He's ranked 2, and this is why. He turns the ball over more than the guy above him, but he still has so much talent that his ceiling is higher than anyone. And you saw it today. Like, he absolutely carved up the Dolphins. He went 320 yards, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers. He was a dog today when they needed him to be. That's why he's up to number 2. Now, the last of our A++ listers, and he's hanging on by a thread right now, and that's Joe Burrow. Now, he moved down one spot from the offseason, but he stays in this tier. His ability to win on Monday Night Football despite the calf injury, inability to move, that just shows why he's so great. I mean, the turnaround today against the Titans was brutal. They only scored 3 points. His calf, you can tell, is just really limiting his mobility, which is not necessarily a huge part of his game. But you think about like the great ones like Brady and Manning who could move within the pocket. Burrow is struggling with that part, which he's normally very good at. I would still say he's one of the most feared quarterbacks in the league. He's a surgeon against zone defenses. He finds his matchups against, with those 3 receivers against man defenses. He's still right now the 3rd best quarterback in the league, but I would say there are some guys just below him right now that are looking to jump him. We move down to the next tier, the elite tier, the Matt Damon tier. And right now, this guy is arguably playing like better than any other quarterback in the league. He had a little bit of a rougher day today, but Tua Tagovailoa, one of my highest risers in the tiers from the offseason to now. He's moved up 6 spots from number 10 to number 4. He currently leads the NFL in passing yards with 1,300 yards, or over 1,300 yards. He has one of the best touchdown to interception ratios at 9-3. He's considered by many as the frontrunner for the MVP. He's elite talent around him, an elite play caller, and that helps. But we finally saw the Bills humble the Dolphins today. But I would say that Tua is still elite right now, and I would take him as the 4th best guy.
Okay.
Next, I've got Lamar Jackson. He moved up 1 in our tier rankings. It helped a lot of these guys that Aaron Rodgers is injured. He therefore dropped out entirely. So a lot of these guys kind of moved up a little bit by default here or there. But Lamar Jackson, he's up 1. He's looked increasingly comfortable in their new offense. He's very efficient and smart against an awesome Browns defense today. He scored all 4 Ravens touchdowns, 2 rushing, 2 passing. He completed 79% of his passes. He's been whatever the Ravens have asked him to be so far this year. He's been very, very, very good. He's a lot more surgical than he was younger, when he was earlier in his career.
I feel that.
Next, at the 6th spot, Justin Herbert moves up 1 spot from the offseason. He continues to make spectacular plays in losses, and the Chargers tried to make today a loss, but they did rebound after the last couple weeks. They were able to win 2 games in a row and get back to 500. He was outdueled by Tua in week 1. He was outdueled by Trevor Lawrence in the playoffs. He needs to win a high-profile matchup against another one of these quarterbacks, i.e. Patrick Mahomes, right? He needs to win a game like that. He's an incredible talent, but the thing holding him back from being even higher on this list is being able to lift his team to more wins, especially in higher-profile games. It's not enough to beat the Aiden O'Connells and the Kirk Cousins of the world. He needs to start beating the Tuas and the Josh Allens and the Patrick Mahomes and getting some playoff wins if he wants to rank any higher than 6th. Next, Jalen Hurts. This guy's actually dropped down 3 spots for me. He dropped down a whole tier. I had him in that A++ list here in the offseason. Right now, he's gotten off to a bit of a slow start this year. He's down 3 spots to the 7th spot right now for me. He started off at 4 in the offseason. Okay. But he did have a great week 4 in the overtime win over the Commanders. Threw for 300 yards for the first time this year. Added 2 passing touchdowns. He just hasn't looked as clean this year. And the talent around him is remarkable. The team around him is obviously ready to win. I would not be surprised if he jumps back into the top tier by the end of the season. But his play right now hasn't been quite good enough to put him up there. So I've dropped him down a little bit.
That makes sense.
At the 8th spot, have Matthew Stafford. This is where I had him in the offseason. He was not a guy many people had in their top 10 anymore. But I did in the offseason. And yes, I am a Rams fan, but I'm going to tell you that is not why. It's because you could see what held him back last year. Their O-line was hurt. It was awful, which meant he had no time to go through his progressions. He had to force the ball out quick, mostly to Cooper Kupp. He was just never healthy, and all that showed. It just showed. And he was a little older, and he just didn't have the same spryness. He played a full season all the way through the Super Bowl the year before. It was never right. Now he's back. Even without Cooper Kupp in the lineup, he's been very good. He's second in the NFL in passing yards. He's made Puka Nacua look like an all-pro while also revitalizing the career of Tutu Atwell, who looked like a bust at one time.
Yeah, last year he wasn't looking good.
Today, he led a masterful touchdown drive to win on a walk-off in Indianapolis, despite picking up a nagging hip flexor injury we mentioned earlier. That injury at one point had him literally falling down without anyone touching him. You weren't sure if he was going to be able to work through it, and then he did, and they win the game. He led a masterclass drive. All right. Next, we've got Trevor Lawrence at 9, the last of the elite tier guys. These top 9 are the only guys right now that I would call elite in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence is the last one for this reason. He hasn't taken the leap that I think a lot of people expected, but he's secretly still been really good. He just hasn't played his best ball, but he's still top 10 in passing yards and interceptions. His touchdown numbers will go up as they get more efficient in the red zone and as he gets more comfortable with Calvin Ridley. I think he's going to get better as the year goes, just like he did last year, by the way. So that's my last elite guy. Now, the Adam Sandler high variance tier, a lot of these guys are actually playing pretty well right now, but you know that at any moment it could get kind of bad, right? It could. But Jared Goff, another guy who's been a high riser for me, he's up 5 spots all the way to number 10. He's 6th in the NFL in passing yards. He just led the Lions to a commanding win over the Packers in Green Bay.
Very true.
That trade has really worked wonders for the Lions. Goff's been better than advertised. They've used the picks to build up the rest of their roster. He plays confident. He looks consistent. The O-line keeps him clean, which doesn't allow the sort of turnover-happy version of him to make many appearances these days. He at one time led the league in most attempts without an interception. So Jared Goff playing good football. He's up to 10. Number 11, Kirk Cousins. He was in the same spot in the offseason. He's kind of the good stats, bad team guy right now. He leads the NFL in passing touchdowns. He's 3rd in passing yards. He's 6th in QB rating, but his team is 1-3. And he does throw some costly interceptions like a pick 6 he threw today. However, he did help his team win to get to that 1-3 record. It feels like if you could ever just put Kirk in an unbelievable situation like maybe the 49ers, that you could win with Kirk Cousins as your quarterback. I think you could. I think he's still one of those guys you could win a Super Bowl with. He's just not the guy that will take you there. He'll be the guy that helps you get there because you have everything around him. And right now, their defense is not good enough. They don't have a good enough offensive line. They're really missing that dynamic playmaker at running back with no Dalvin Cook. Justin Jefferson's been good. Jordan Addison's been good. He wasn't today, but for the most part, those guys have been good. He needs more help. Next, I've got Dak Prescott sitting at 12, at the 12 spot here. He's down 2 spots from the offseason. He's been himself through 4 games. He threw a costly INT against the Cardinals, but he did bounce back versus the Patriots. He continues to be good enough for that team to win big with. But he's not an elite in the way that he can completely elevate a team around him consistently, very much like Goff and Cousins, the other guys in this tier. They're guys that you can definitely win a Super Bowl with, but are they going to elevate the guys around you? Probably not. Next, at 13, I've got Geno Smith, who also was sitting in the 13-hole spot in the offseason. He's just steadily very good. He's thrown for 736 yards so far through 3 games, pending the Monday Night Football game tomorrow. But he's been very good for Seattle. They've actually gotten really lucky with him. At 14, I've got Deshaun Watson, same spot he sat in the offseason. He missed today, but he just is starting to look closer to the version of himself that was in Houston. He's finally kind of getting back there, and he may take a leap here if that continues. At 15, I've got Brock Purdy, another one of the risers. He rose up 5 spots since the offseason.
Made it out the tier below.
Yeah, he was a starter with question marks. He's now got enough tape and enough good tape that I would say he's in that high variance tier. He looks at home in the Niners offense. His playmaking off script elevates their offense. He gets the ball to the playmakers in space, and he still has not lost a game as a starter. So,
crazy.
The question marks, the reason I'm not putting him in that elite tier quite yet is he's just got such an unbelievable makeup around him, and there's still some throws that I see. He should have thrown about 4 different picks this year. That dude's dropped. So that's the one thing that I still kind of have it kind of feels like he's this exact guy where you put the right team around him, you can definitely win big with him. And that's what he's got right now. So I think the team around him helps him a lot. Next, we've got Derek Carr at the 16 spot. As I said last week, I went on my rant. He is the definition of mid. He's actually the very most midpoint quarterback in the entire NFL at 16.
Yeah.
I did not do this on purpose. It just sort of happened. He played through a painful injury today. He didn't look great, but he did look very good through 2.5 weeks before he got hurt. He had the Saints on track to go to 3-0. Now they're 2-2, and we're going to have to see how he responds after another week to rest that AC joint. Russell Wilson, down just 1 spot. Not a lot of movement here, but he's about what I thought he'd be. He's much better under Sean Payton. He's thrown for 1,000+ yards already, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks. He's actually been much better secretly than he was the year before.
Yeah,
Last year, he was a dumpster fire at quarterback. It was not good. I know a lot of people were making fun of the Broncos right now, and specifically him because he's Russell Wilson, but he actually has not been the reason they are losing. And he was a big reason why he's a big reason why they won today. So good for him. We're now into the starter with question marks tier, our Nicolas Cage tier. So at the 18 spot, Jordan Love. He's moved up 5 since he was in my Holland youthful tier. He's now proven himself enough that I moved him up into the next tier. Been good enough to win close games, but he's also not been quite good enough to elevate his team right now. I think his comeback win in week 3 was just as impressive as the losses to the Falcons and Lions were disappointing. His big question is whether or not he's got enough of the risk-taking ability that separates the good from the elite. And right now he's making the good throws, but he's not making the elite throws. Now, we watched that throw against the Saints on the 3rd down breakdown last week. That throw was elite. But how many, is he making it consistently? Not quite yet. And so that's the question with him. Next, we have Kenny Pickett. He's up 2 spots from the offseason, but he's been good enough to stay out of the youthful tier, but he's not so good that I don't have questions like, what does he look like outside of Matt Canada's offense? And again, is it Kenny Pickett or Matt Canada? I guess we'll stick around to find out. At the 20 spot, I've got Daniel Jones. He's up 2 spots from the offseason as well. His legs get him out of trouble a lot. He's okay. He's not great. Definitely shouldn't be getting $40 million per year, would be my
I agree with
him.
that.
And then the highest riser of all the guys on the list right now, he's up 11 spots. Baker Mayfield. All right. Has anyone ever had a career like Baker Mayfield's? I don't think so. I was still, in a capital STILL, a believer going into last season. But his struggles last year finally made me give up. Even when he became a Ram, I was like, great, Baker, and he did some good stuff
then
with
you
the Rams.
get there and he's got that 50-point dub on the Broncos. Like, it is all wild.
There was still enough of the up and down, though, that it was kind of like, Baker's probably not it, right? And, of course, though, as soon as I give up, he is back. I had him ranked in the 30 spot in the offseason. He's all the way up to 21. Or I think I had him ranked in the 32 spot, and he's all the way up into 21 now. He has the Bucs sitting at 3-1, a team that I thought might win 3 games all year.
Yeah.
With 882 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, only 2 picks. That's a big deal for him. He's had full command of the Bucs. He's played very well so far. All right. We're now in the youthful tier. These guys, I guess you could say they're ranked, 22 through 25 or 26, but they're not really ranked. They're more like unranked, right? They're the youthful Tom Holland tier. There's not enough. 4 weeks is not enough to make a true, evaluation of these guys. However, CJ Stroud is 4th in the entire league in passing yards.
He's balling.
He's 7th in completions. He still has not thrown an interception in 4 weeks. I almost put him up in my
Up a level.
tiers. I
Dang.
almost put him up there, but I can't
Texans are
justify
low
it
key
quite.
nice, bro. I'm gonna just say it now.
I couldn't justify it quite yet, though, because it's small sample size. But if he keeps playing like this, he's definitely going to be on the rise in my next tier rankings. Anthony Richardson, he's another one. He's only played 3 games, but he's been very impressive. He's been very productive, both as a passer and a runner. He's more accurate than Cam Newton was this early in his career, but he still has the same athletic profile. He's just as dominant as a runner. I think he has a chance to jump as well. He's a guy who I really like. Obviously, got to watch him up close and personal against the Rams today. He played very well. Next, I've got Bryce Young. He's been beat up a lot so far, which makes me a little nervous for the rest of his career moving forward. Despite the absolute talent he has, it's been a rough year so far with the Panthers at 0-4. Sam Howell, the young QB, he's taken sacks at a historic rate. Right now, he'd be on pace to break the record for most sacks taken by a quarterback in a season. But he's been the most promising quarterback to come through Washington since Kirk Cousins.
True.
So it's a big deal.
The enemy,
He's
bro.
looked really good. He makes some great throws. He does. He flashes. Desmond Ridder. So far, he's shown he's not shown the consistency we needed to see from a starter. He's probably the young guy I feel the least good about after his performances through the first 4 weeks, at least the least good in terms of these Holland tier guys.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We are now into the bottom of the barrel, as they say. These 6 guys are all in my B-listers, which means I think they'd all be better off as backup quarterbacks. Number 1, Ryan Tannehill. He plays well when the Titans can run the ball and they can play defense. Yeah. He's the definition of a game manager, but the Titans have drafted his replacement in back-to-back years. So, and that's for a reason, and good reason. Looked good today, of course, beating up on the Bengals, but again, they could run the ball and they played great defense. He didn't really have to do much. Jimmy G. The 3 INTs against the Steelers just kind of solidified. He just isn't a starting quarterback anymore. Like, not one you can consistently win with at this point in his career. The Niners let him go for a reason. Josh Dobbs, he wasn't ranked in the offseason because he wasn't a starter going into the year.
To play, yeah.
He's no one's idea of a long-term starter, but he has done very well for the Cardinals this year. They've been competitive in almost every game. His ability to run has helped keep them on the field at times. And he's been a player I liked. He's proven it. I've always liked him. He's proving his worth as probably what would be one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league.
No doubt. I'm on the Josh Dobbs train, to be honest. I know, like you said, he's not expected to be a starter much longer anywhere, really, besides where he's at. But I think he's really good and deserves to be in the league.
For sure. Okay, the next 2 guys are my biggest fallers since the offseason. Mac Jones, he's down 8 spots from where he was in the offseason. I gave him a lot of the benefit of the doubt for last year. He had a good rookie year. He was awful last year. I said, hey, you know what? He didn't have a real offensive coordinator, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt here, right? He's been just as bad, even with a real offensive coordinator this year. He had 3 more turnovers against the Cowboys on Sunday. He had a pick 6, a fumble 6 in his own territory, another pick. He was benched eventually. It just doesn't feel like the 2021 draft class will turn out as advertised outside of Trevor Lawrence. Basically, everyone else in that draft class, which, by the way, spoiler alert, the next 2 guys I'm going to talk about are part of that draft class as well. Trey Lance is even on the tiers because he's never been a real starter. These guys, they're just not working out. Justin Fields, he's down 12 spots, my biggest faller. He and Baker Mayfield essentially flipped. Either the Bears organization is an absolute dumpster fire, as we talked about, or Fields just isn't the guy we hoped for. Or, more likely, both. Zach Wilson, he's not very good, and it's probably time to accept he just doesn't have it. And that's where we're at with all these guys. And that, my friend, has been this year's version of the QB tiers. The first quarter QB tiers. We will be back. I think we're going to go. I mean, it used to be that, it was real clean. We had 16 weeks. You could go every 4. With the 17 weeks, it kind of makes it murky where the quarters actually are. So 4 weeks, we're calling it a quarter. we'll probably do our next rankings around week 9.
9, yeah, I'm assuming. I will say, if you don't mind, can you bring it back up real quick just so I could get where I felt we differentiated a little bit? I know off top, though, Joe Burrow, I mean, that's kind of a knock on him being injured, but I think he should be in the one below. He still has all that great talent. We've seen it versus the Rams, like you mentioned, but I do think in terms of the first 4 weeks, he should be in that Damon tier. Maybe swap him and Tua, I think would probably be my one suggestion there.
If we were going 4-week sample size and not taking into account the rest of their careers and everything that they've done, you're probably right.
Let's see, who else was I looking at? I was thinking Trevor Lawrence, I think, in terms of the 4 weeks. Probably, I mean, I like him being at the end of that tier, but maybe you swap him and Goff, I think, or put him in the tier below in front of Goff, one of those two options. And then outside of that, I think probably Brock Purdy, move him up in his tier somewhere. At least in front of Geno. Maybe Dak even in terms of them being undefeated. But
it'll be interesting to see Purdy against that Cowboys defense next week. That's going to be a real test, and we'll find out, I think, a lot more about Purdy than any other week, that he's gotten to play.
Yeah, no doubt. It'll be somewhat similar to what we could have seen in. Or wait, did they play them last year in the playoffs? Actually,
they did.
I say that? Yeah, okay.
They did, but that Cowboys defense was not quite as good last year as they are right now, I would say.
Yeah. And then outside of that, I think maybe Ritter in the tier below. I don't know. Maybe it is like you said, we don't have enough film on him really.
I mean, he's only played 6 NFL games now. I gotta give him a little bit more. A little bit more,
give him more of a fighting chance.
I'm almost there right now with him. He did not look good today at all.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like they're just stuck in some old school football, running the ball, or they're just gonna do a bunch of dumps and hope Bijan can go make highlights for days because he's incredible to watch. But I don't think their offense is sustainable in what they've been doing.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, that's probably about it for me. Those ones.
All right. Well, all of you out there in listener land, feel free to comment. Tell me what I messed up. Tell me what where your quarterback should actually be. I'm sure all of you will tell me that so-and-so should be higher. Somehow every guy on the list should be higher. But go ahead. Give me all the feedback. We always welcome it. It's on to awards, my friend. Awards for week 4. Week 4. Let's go. We got the first award, baby. Tuca Gamer of the Week award. And who more fitting to get the Tuca award than Tuca
in week 4?
Tuca in week 4 with a game-winning touchdown drive, the walk-off dub, 9 catches, 163 yards, and his first touchdown ever in the NFL, a walk-off. Walk it off, Rams dub, Puka Nacua, the Tuca Gamer of the Week award for week 4.
Yeah. He should be that's Rookie of the Month award no matter where it is,
Big
that
fact.
Dude, crazy. But flip side for me, same division. I'm teaching in the same division actually. We're going Christian McCaffrey. I'm pretty sure I probably had him here before already. But today the guy was incredible. He went 20 carries, 106 yards, 3 touchdowns, 7 catches, 71 yards, another touchdown. My dude, I think he was 1 touchdown away from tying the most in a game for one dude. And the guy, I literally think I was going to text you earlier and be like, I think this guy's the GOAT of running backs at this point, honestly. He's done it. He's done it with the Panthers before, and now he's here in San Fran just lighting up the sky like crazy. I really do think this dude's at least on the Mount Rushmore of running backs. And he's still playing.
Big compliments there, my friend. No. That would be interesting to look at where he stands on the greatest running backs of all time. I think he's got a lot more career left to do some stuff. I don't know if he's there yet. I don't know if he's even top 10. I'd have to look at the list, but he's having a now I will say he's on pace to have one of the best years a running back has had. So
I think the only thing that it's the classic like Bell back versus what we're seeing now, like a hybrid dude, which kind of ties into what I have a question for in the next week we get to. But the second award we got, the classic, the Jody Dog of the Week. So this week, I think it was clear this guy, he shined in his game. He returned from being injured. Definitely, you could tell this team was missing him. I went with David Montgomery from the Lions. 32 carries, 121 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then 2 catches, 20 yards. I mean, I think it was evident. We seen without him, they were struggling. He comes back. But not only does he ball, but they destroyed the Packers. And with Jahmyr Gibbs, they weren't firing on all cylinders like they did this past week with his return. So I do think that is also a key factor as to why he was on this award. But then the output that he also had was just crazy.
No question. They're getting their money's worth for what they paid in free agency for David Montgomery. The next award, the minor setback for the major comeback. Last week we talked about this award possibly being cursed. However, Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, did bounce back today, and Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars finally bounced back.
The London game.
The Bengals, I guess, bounced back last week against the Rams. So I guess it's not cursed anymore, is what we're going to say. But I'm just going to put it out there. Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, they broke the curse. But today's minor setback, major comeback, it's pretty obvious. Tua. He's been wrecking the league. I mean, but it was going to happen eventually that one defense was going to kind of have some counters. And Mike McDaniels, they'll scheme stuff up. They'll be better the next week. Tua's way too good. Mike McDaniel's way too good. Tyreek Hill's way too good for them to just all of a sudden tank.
Yeah.
They had a rough day. They'll be much better next week as they bounce back. They have a favorable stretch a little bit there against the Giants and the Panthers before they get a big game in a couple weeks against the Eagles. They'll bounce back.
That'll be fun to watch. That's a big looking forward to playoffs type game. So that'll be nice. But coming up next,
no cap hats off is what you're about to say.
Yeah.
The no cap hats off. I thought you were
continuing with Tua, so I was like, oh, I should let him speak before we get there.
Yeah.
What'd you see today that was shocking to you?
There was a couple things, couple ones. I mean, the Aiden O'Connell throwing a 4th down laser to set up 1st and goal and then instantly throwing an interception the other way was really tough. That was pretty crazy. And then Herbert sealing the game on just a bomb on 3rd and 10, but he throws a 30-yard shot play.
Yeah.
Was also pretty crazy. However, the no cap hats off play of the week. It's actually Derrick Henry throwing his 2nd career touchdown pass. They brought Jeffrey Simmons, their defensive tackle, out there. They shifted Ryan Tannehill out. Simmons was on the hip. They looked like King Henry's going to run it in Wildcat style, and then dumped it over the top for a touchdown. His 2nd touchdown pass of his career. He's now 5 for 6 for 23 yards passing in his career.
That's crazy. My man's only got 1 incompletion, and it's all probably off the Wildcat. I think it might have been last year, maybe 2 years ago. I remember they went to just strictly Wildcat for a little bit in one game just because they were out with some QB injuries. But next thing we got, speaking of our guy Simmons being on that play, we got the Strahan Munoz Award. I didn't even write my guy down, but for me, I got the Munoz side of the things this week. I went with George Fant out of the Texans game. He, to my knowledge that I learned watching that game, he was actually a backup replacing the right tackle. So very impressive. I thought he was doing good already.
The whole Texans O-line, they were really beat up. They're playing TJ Watt and the Steelers.
Yeah. That's what I was about to get into. He was predominantly guarding him being on the right side, and he only allowed him to have 1 tackle. He assisted on 2, which is kind of wild, being that's who I think is probably one of the best DNs in the league. And then there was a total of 3 tackles he gave up, but 2 of them were just reads for the DN. So he was crashing down and they just pulled right behind his back and made the tackle. It wasn't schemed up for him to guard that dude initially. So I give him a pass on those ones. So all around great game from the guy. especially being a backup, which I had no clue about until they said it.
Yeah. The Strahan winner this week.
Uh-huh.
I'm just gonna. He had a nearly record-setting day.
Yeah.
Khalil Mack playing against his former team. This man had 10 total tackles.
Crazy.
8 of them were solo. He had 5 TFLs. He had 1 pass disruption, 4 quarterback hits, and 6
6 right there. Count them up.
sacks. 6 sacks against the Raiders. If for any of you wondering, the single game record is 7, set by Derek Thomas, the Pro Bowl pass rusher for the Chiefs. But Khalil Mack almost tied that guy. He had 6. Living in the Raiders'
insane.
nightmares right now. 6 sacks of Aiden O'Connell. It was just, just every time the Chargers needed a big play on defense, it felt like Khalil Mack got a sack. Impressive.
Yeah. We'll see more of Aiden O'Connell coming up here soon with me, because in the Who's Cooking Award this week, I went with him. And unfortunately, his numbers don't sound too bad. It's the turnovers where it gets him. So he went 24 for 39 with 238. Not bad. No tutties, tough. But that means they were doing it on the run game, which that Chargers run game is meh for their defense. But the guy unfortunately threw 1 pick and then had 2 fumbles in the game, and I felt like this dude was eating popcorn at halftime, because every time he dropped back, the ball was on the floor and everyone's jumping on it. Like, I'm sure Khalil Mack was making plenty of those. I couldn't tell you who was on which ones, but yeah, every time he dropped back, they were slapping his arm, ball on the ground. It was crazy. So I know the dude. It's his first start, so I can't knock the guy like that. But in terms of the award, he seemed most fit for me.
So speaking of who's cooking right now, just give you a quick scores update. Zach Wilson is cooking right now. He's got the Jets in the red zone, down 20-12. It's a 1-score game in the third quarter. Zach Wilson's got him driving. Just found Garrett Wilson at the 10-yard line. The Jets have 3rd and 8 right now. This is a 2nd and 2 podcast. First, I'm just going to play-by-play the game for you.
Ooh, let's hear it.
Zach Wilson to the end zone. Touchdown! Alan Lazard.
Ooh.
Oh, and the Jets are making it a ball game. We're going to have to get off this podcast to go watch it. All right. And back to the Who's Cooking. It's not actually Zach Wilson who is my award winner for Who's Cooking right now, although he is playing his best ball, and maybe he's going to get me to move him out of last place in my QB tiers the next time we go.
Ooh.
Probably not. But the quarterback who is cooking, the rookie QB who is cooking today, you talked about the Texans O-line. They gave this guy all kinds of time. C.J. Stroud was impressive. He threw for 306 yards, 2 touchdowns. He led this young team to an impressive 30-6 onslaught against the Steelers today. This gets the Texans to 2-2. And we said at 0-2, they were a team that we liked. We liked them even though they were 0-2.
They're looking really
we said
fun.
There was stuff to look for, right? So we'll keep looking at it. It appears the Jets are going to go for 2, by the way. I'll keep you updated on whether or not they get it.
That also ties into the question I wanted to ask you, actually. But the next award we got on the docket, as always, your favorite right here, the Boo Boo Evans Award. And this week, it was only fitting. I was looking at stats, seeing who I could place here, and I saw this one firsthand. My guy Mac Jones from the Patriots went 12 for 21, 150 yards, but he threw 2 picks, had a fumble, and ended up getting benched in the game for our guy Bailey Zappi.
Yep.
And was he playing the Cowboys? Yeah, sure. That's tough. But if you're getting benched in the middle of the game, it's not looking too good for you in that certain week.
Oh, dude, Zach Wilson is cooking. My man just ran a 2-point in himself. And it was not an easy run either. 20-20 with 10 minutes to go in the third quarter. We got ourselves a ball game, people. Sunday Night Football. Let's go.
Sounds good. Well, speaking of him moving the chains with his legs and doing all sorts of other things, we got the turnover on downs coming up. With first down, we got your trend of the week that you've seen. And what do you have in store for us today?
Oh, I've got something good, Joe. You know I've got something good. All right. So here's what we've got. our first down trends that I'm seeing. Okay, so I talked about the trend in motions. A lot of in to out motion, quick motion from a lot of teams in the NFL, but specifically the Dolphins are making it popular. They love doing this thing where they hide Tyreek off the tackle's butt. Then he
that's
sits
crazy.
down and
Look
then
right there.
he motions wide, right? And they're doing this out of a lot of 21 personnel. Tight end here, 2 backs in the backfield. They've got Tyreek Hill and Chosen Anderson out there. And so when they do this motion, they've done a lot of different stuff off of it. We've seen it distract to run screens. We've seen it distract to run power run game, right? All kinds of stuff. So you're going to see when Tyreek motions and they're going to try and set up a play action screen to Devin A-Chain in the flat over here, Tre'Davious White is going to just trigger on the motion. That motion is going to just send him off the edge. That was the Bills' counter. If we see this motion, we're bringing pressure. All right? So you'll see it. There's the motion.
Yeah.
They're setting up the play action screen to A-Chain, right? They bring the opposite back across.
He's going
But
right behind his
Tre'Davious
back.
White, he just sends it and forces the incompletion. Can't even get the screen out to Devin A-Chain. Really good play by Tre'Davious White. This is why his loss is getting injured today. Really sucks for the Bills. But this is a great counter by the head coach and who's currently the DC, Sean McDermott. Hey, if they're going to run this motion with Tyreek, we're going to send Tre'Davious White as soon as you do it. So when Tua turns his back and he comes back around to set up the screen, nothing there. Great job, great counter to a trend, right? We see this kind of, never-ending struggle between offense and defense in terms of scheme and, who's going to out-scheme who's going to do what next. Fun to watch. So Sean McDermott got Mike McDaniel on that one. I'm sure Mike McDaniel will have something for him later in the year.
He'll be prepared going forward.
Yep.
I know he will be for sure. So second down to the turnover on downs, we got my bet for next week. So I'll give you my little 4 that I'm looking at, give you the final answer at the end of it. First one I had eyes on was the Falcons-Texans game with the Texans at +2.5 and or the over-under in that game at 41.5. I think the Texans have been lighting it up. The Falcons, maybe not as much, but they still got Bijan out there making moves, creating some space for the receivers to go get a ball deep like Drake London has today. Almost had 2 tutties. He got 1. Let's see. The next one I had eyes on, Titans versus Colts, and the Colts was -1. Let's see. Over-under in the Niners-Cowboys game, I was rolling with the over 45.5. That one looks good to me as well. And then Packers versus Raiders, Packers -1. But I think my final answer, I'm going to go Colts -1. I think Anthony Richardson's going to ball over that defense. Maybe the Titans front line is tough. That defensive line is really good. You talked about Simmons earlier. That guy's a beast. They paid that man for a reason. But I think the Colts will tear him up.
Very interesting game between 2 teams. I'm very curious to see how that one turns out for sure. All right, so we got the third down breakdown, all right? And so we're going to break down a critical play from a game today between the Eagles and the Commanders. Once again,
good old NFC East.
The NFC East battle. The third down breakdown going live to Philadelphia.
There it is.
With the Commanders versus the Eagles.
Now, a lot of lines on this one.
Yes.
Is this telling us man? Is that what that's doing?
Yeah, so we've got a lot going on here, right? So this is in overtime. 3rd and 5 for the Commanders in OT. A critical play, as you'll see what happens. The Eagles are able to get a stop, and they go down and kick the game-winning field goal. It was close, though. So the Eagles are going to run an overloaded front here, but they're sending pressure from the backside, right? So they've got Fletcher Cox and Hassan Reddick over here, right? And then they've got the overload side over here. They're going to run a little overload game, what I call tornado, right? You're going to get these guys going both outside gaps. He's going to step up and come back underneath to create the pressure. These guys are both just straight rushing the opposite side. It forces one-on-ones across the board. So you're sending 5, which means you have 6 in coverage. They're going to play man here, man here, man here, man on the back, man backside. You'll see this backer. He's going to add to the rush once he sees the back stays in protection. And then you've got one guy free in the middle of the field who's just, man free, classic cover one, right? So they're going to send 5, play cover 1 behind it, okay, with the little game up front. Now, Washington is going to run essentially what we call smash, right? They're going to run double hitches. These guys are going to turn outside on the hitches, and then they're going to run the corner route to isolate Terry McLaurin. He's going to run away from that middle of the field safety, creating a true one-on-one with a safety, which we love for Terry McLaurin. That's a great matchup for the Commanders. Sam Howell, you'll see, as this ball gets snapped, correctly identifies that it's man-free. He knows what he's got right now already. You can see Josh Sweat is already curling under Brandon Graham and the edge rusher coming outside, right? They're playing real physical down at the bottom, but these are short routes anyway. The real one-on-one matchup they're going to get is right here with the safety. You see this backer adds to the rush. The back stays in protection. Now that pressure, Brandon Graham is getting home right now, forcing the ball to be thrown by Sam Howell maybe a step sooner than he wanted to, but he gets it off, makes a great throw in the bucket right here. However, a fantastic play from Blankenship, the Eagles safety, to force this incompletion. Terry McLaurin almost has one of the catches of the year here. He gets 1 foot in, boom. Second foot comes down on kind of his arm and then ends up out of bounds. It's so close. And those are the margins in the NFL right there. Those are the margins. It was that close. And unfortunately for the Eagles, or for the Commanders, that's how close it was to them getting a first down and extending that game. I mean, who knows what happens from there, right? Instead, they have to punt. The Eagles end up kicking a game-winning field goal.
Yeah, closing out this turnover on downs, it's the bad beat of the week for me. And so last week, let me double check how many I gave. I gave out 5 picks last week that I liked. One of them, obviously, like I said, I pick. And I figured last week, if I'm giving these out, I might as well play them.
Okay.
They're from my head. I like them that much. I'm gonna put money on them. So bad beat. Well, like I said the last week too, if you're not there early, the lines can shift and then you get put out of play. So that background right there being said, I had 2 issues with this bet last week. I did it Monday when we recorded. And Sunday, sorry. I did it Sunday when we recorded. The game preceding was Monday. Eagles had a Monday game. And so your boy, because I had the over in the Commanders and Eagles, which hit, obviously. And I picked it for the wrong game because the Eagles hadn't played yet. So that line didn't even exist really in where I placed my bets. And so I wasted $1 because that didn't hit in that Monday night game. It missed it by like 2 points. So then the next day I said, oh, hey, I messed up. I didn't put it in for the right game. So let me re-up this bet. So I go to put it in. Like I said, line shift. The Broncos game went from -2.5 to -3.5. And I said, man, do I take the flip side so it's underneath 3 points still? I said, no, I like the Broncos at 2.5. What's the extra 2 points going to do to me? It is what it is. I still think the Broncos are winning. So that game plays out. They only win by 3. So my parlay from last week should have hit, but because of timing and issues on my end, I took a L on that parlay, even though I gave out a heater on the podcast. So that's where my head has been all day. Just I had the money in the bag, I just didn't secure it. The briefcase was left open a little bit, money fell out, and here we are. So that's my bad beat for the week. Just do your bets on time, and you'll be A-okay. Don't mess them up the first time either.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, that's what I can't. Doesn't get any more bad beat than that, dude. I mean, golly.
No, yeah. So closing out that long-winded answer, I got the banger of the.
I do want to shout out our guy Chase on the podcast. He took the Texas, Kansas over 54.5. And do you know what that total finished at?
Or is this a bad beat or?
Yep.
Oh, 54?
Yes. And my guy was distraught.
Dang, bro.
My guy
That
was
is tough.
distraught. He was
That is
texting me.
tough.
He was like, "This is gonna hit." Blah blah. He had this parlay,
Yeah.
and that was like the thing that didn't. And then he, however, he did have on the back end of the night. He did have Notre Dame against Duke, and Notre Dame ended
Okay.
up scoring at the end to cover and everything for him. So
Uh-huh.
I think he's
So
okay.
it worked out in the end, but
I
in
think
that
it worked out
moment,
for
he
him
was
later.
in
Yeah,
he was
he
in some
in the
trauma.
moment
Yeah.
when that thing finished at 54, he was upset. So shout out to our guy Chase.
If we want to do another one, we could do our guy 2X because he thought he had a heater with that parlay.
No, that's not a
And
bad beat. That was just a bad bet.
no, besides him thinking that SDSU had a chance to win, his everything hit but that one, and I think the Dodgers might have lost by 1, which is also part of the reason why he lost. But the fact that he thought he had a chance on that one, I felt bad because I hit him with the no chance, bro.
Yeah.
And it looked close in the first half, I think, and then they just came out and ran the ball all over him.
What you got for the banger of the week, dog?
So the banger of the week, we don't do it often. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't watch nothing anytime recently. Haven't heard new music until Friday. We got Drizzy coming out. I'm looking forward to that. But I've been drinking some coffee recently. I've been trying to get off of some energy drinks and get into coffee.
Okay.
And so I rolled up to Starbucks yesterday. And I was looking at the menu. They see what they got. I don't really know what to order in coffee. I just say, "Hey, I want this right here."
Cold brew.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt. I have some Stella Blue. Hey, big cat, hook it up. But
Okay.
I got Stella Blue, and I'll be make cold brew with that every now and again. If I expect I'm gonna be tired one week. But so roll into Starbucks, and I was like, let me try out this apple crisp macchiato. And so like I've had the caramel macchiato before.
Apple crisp macchiato.
Yeah.
Was it that good?
Yeah, bro. I liked it a lot.
Ooh,
It was so
man,
I don't really
try
know the difference in like, the way they brew the different type of drink, latte, macchiato, whatever you want to call them. But I know when you mix them, it tastes even better. So I took a sip and I was like, whoa, like it truly does taste like apples, right? So then I got to the swirling, melt the ice a little bit in there, like let it get a little
so it was an
colder.
iced apple crisp macchiato.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm getting that on Thursday.
So yeah, swirled it up, took a sip and said, man, this really does taste like apples 1 and 2. I kind of like this. And so at the bottom, the caramel macchiato, they put caramel, right? So this one had like apple pie stuffing a little bit. You know how it's like all mashed up apples?
Yeah.
It was like that at the bottom. So I was like trying to get that to mix into the drink. So I kept swirling and swirling. And so when I finally got towards the end is when I got that flavor too. And I was like, man, this is actually really good. Like, I kind of like it. So here we are, banger of the week. We got a drink for you guys to try at Starbucks if you're a fan of it.
Macchiato.
Yeah, apple crisp macchiato.
All
It
right.
was doing me good.
I love it, dude. That's I'm gonna try that for real. I'll report back next week.
Yeah, let me know.
But that'll do it for week 4 NFL reviews, 2nd and 2 podcast. We'll let our guy Ray take us out.